And what is nothing short of an interactive love letter to New Caledonia is the video game Chia. Play as a young girl named Chia as she travels around New Caledonia, a French territory consisting of a few islands in the South Pacific, in a rescue mission to save her father. Equipped with special soul-capturing powers, there's a lot more to this island adventure than meets the eye. Chia is available on PS4, PS5, and the Epic Games Store for $29.99 this week. I went blind into Tchia, so I didn't really know what I was getting into outside of the game taking place on an island and its cultural influences. Little did I know that I was in for a heartfelt treat. You play as Chia, a young girl living on one of the islands of New Caledonia. Her life is a tranquil one, fishing with her father and learning about her people's traditions as we learn through her. That peaceful life is quickly interrupted when her father is kidnapped, leaving Chia to answer the call to adventure and save the day. As with most rescue missions, things aren't so straightforward as the story quickly devolves into something so much more. While you investigate the whereabouts of your father and their kidnapper, you'll come across a diverse cast of island citizens, each with their own stories and vignettes. These in response open up more of the island's traditions and cultures. It was beautiful in a way I just didn't really expect. I had never heard of this place to begin with, and yet having played Chia, despite it diving into the more fantasy elements at times, I felt like I had been here and truly met the people from here. I could easily tell how much attention to detail was put into designing this world, as it engulfed me every minute I played. That world immersion, along with some new connections Chia makes along the way, is what grabbed me the most. The overarching story with her father, while still important, didn't captivate me as much, at least not until the midway point of the narrative. That's all to say that the biggest character in this story is by far the open world. Chia is presented in a grand open world consisting of a few islands. Chia will have to explore every nook and cranny to be able to find her father and maybe make some friends along the way. She may look like an ordinary girl, but there's a lot more to her. She has the power to send her soul into both living and non-living things. With the press of a button, you're able to look around and locate possessible objects. This can range from a chair, a rock, and a barrel, to a bird, a crab, and even a dolphin, just to name a few. Finding out what you can possess and how it works is part of the fun. A dog, for example, can dig, a crab can use its pincers, and a bird, well, can poop. There are repeatable moves that can be used between various animals, but simply figuring out what you can control is part of the fun, even when it mechanically makes no sense to possess that object. Soul catching is a major center point of the gameplay. You'll use it to traverse around the world and even in combat. Enemies come in the form of these fabric creatures that guard little posts. Using climbable objects you possess, you can throw these onto enemies to burn them to a crisp. Your actions will be rewarded with unlockable clothes to further customize Chia to your liking. While not the most engaging and honestly really easy combat, I enjoyed collecting the various pieces of clothing for Chia. She has a grand personality, and being able to dress them in matching clothes was entertaining. Outside of her soul jumping powers, which are limited by a meter by the way, Chia has a stamina gauge and a glider similar to that of Link's in Breath of the Wild. It's actually a similar system overall. Chia's stamina allows her to climb onto any object, so long as she has the energy to do so. Using these tools you can explore the island, which you'll come to realize has various side objectives for you to complete. There are viewpoints that reveal more objectives on the map, trinkets that you can collect, and upgrades for your soul and stamina meters. There's also a handful of minigames like the ukulele rhythm game, the photography sessions, and slingshots with high scores. They're entertaining initially, but do feel like padding rather quickly. Overall, Chia to me feels like a very wholesome Breath of the Wild indie-like game. It certainly doesn't have the same polish as that title, but it also exudes a sense of charm and wonder that isn't in that game either. Not like this at least. At times I wish Chia was a bit more polished, but at the same time, I can't help but smile at the derpiness too. I wish combat was a lot more engaging and the map actually showed you where you were and not just the general area I was in. Equally, just flying over the island as a bird and finding a new trinket or stamina upgrade, I found myself consistently intrigued by that and its story. Chia features a vibrant and colorful presentation that reminds me of Ahead in Time and other popular modern 3D platformers. I will say what makes Chia's presentation stand out though is its attention to lighting and the world design. Skyboxes in Chia look stunning no matter the time of day. There'd be moments where I was sailing or flying in the air only to be lost in the marvelous backdrop. That continues on into the world design and the people on the island. These creatures are charming with little quirks that made them feel unique from one another. But it isn't Chia's realism that wins me over by any means. It has this level of jank to it that at times complements the more beautiful moments, and other times reminds me that this could have been a bit more polished. For example, the wildlife around me can look a little bit derpy, especially the cats and dogs, but in a way, they complement the more polished up presentation of everything else. Other instances of jank, like when the gameplay refused to load after a cutscene at the start of the game, or just slow loadings of cutscenes, simply reminded me that despite this game going for Breath of the Wild open world gameplay, it doesn't match its quality, which, to be fair, I don't really expect it with a team of this size. Now, Chia is available on PS4, PS5, and PC. For my review copy, I got it on the Epic Game Store, and was able to play with epic settings at 1440p at 60 FPS. This was all running on the RTX 3060 Ti. For the most part, the game was stable, but it did run into a few dips when the skyboss would be on the sunset scene. It wasn't enough to ruin the experience for me, but I also don't think this rig should be struggling with this, so I personally think it's a bit of an optimization issue too. Like its world design, Chia intertwines its cultural inspiration throughout its music and vocal performances. While the island's official language is French, a handful of natives speak their own language, and you can see that painted into the game's world design between characters that teach each other their own language. It's a sweet touch that leads to some very heartwarming moments. As I mentioned before, that continues on with its music, with the variety of songs sung in the native tongue of the island. These moments divulge into full-on music rhythm games that were honestly moving. Chia was made with a ton of heart and love, and that's easily apparent. As I soared through the sky, spoke to the people across the island, and sailed through the sea, I can very much feel the care that was put into every decision made for this game. Getting to explore the island, I felt easily reeled into exploring every nook and cranny, collecting new clothing for Chia, and discovering collectibles here and there. Chia is obviously ambitious, that's noted in its highs and its lows. Sadly, this game can get a bit janky with its performance and optimization. I had another reviewer friend report that it straight up crashed their computer once, and while I didn't run into that personally, it's something I wanted to know. Hopefully with some time, Chia can further get optimized, because once you get past that jank, there's some fun to dig into here. If you're picking up Chia, let me know what you're excited to play as and what you're playing it on in the comments down below. On the left you can find my last review, and use the link at the bottom to join my Discord. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.